Hello, movie lovers. Welcome home. My name is Amy Henserling, and you are listening to Watch This List Unplugged. I am very excited tonight because I am starting a brand new series. We are done with Insomnia Cinema, ending with The Great Jetta with Flesh for Frankenstein, which I think is apt, and starting a new series revolving around hidden gems. I have Frank Ritz here with me, who is my, what would I even call you, Frank? My designated
test dummy.
I guess
Guinea
driver
pig?
wouldn't work. Guinea pig, maybe.
All right.
Frank is always the first.
Mm-hmm.
So when I started the show back in what, Frank? Last June?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
No, it was before that, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think we recorded before that.
Yeah.
But Frank was my first debut episode. And then when I started Insomnia Cinema, Frank was my first. And now again. So it's just always a privilege. And this time he chose two movies that I ended up loving, which is a welcome relief from midnight movies. I'm sorry to say.
Is that why you wanted to switch it up a little bit?
That is why I did 10 episodes of midnight movies. I feel that I gave it a fair shot.
Mm-hmm.
But the time has come for me to return to myself and
Mm-hmm.
watch movies that I could potentially really enjoy. Not that I didn't enjoy it, but it's different, liking something versus trying to like something.
Those things definitely weren't a part of your wheelhouse, but everybody should respect you for trying.
Thank you. Not only trying, Frank, I succeeded.
Yeah, true.
Okay?
You're right. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Get it right. Gosh. So the only thing I want to say before we start is that I got this idea to do hidden gems based off this book that I'm currently reading. It is called The Best Film You've Never Seen. It's by an author named Robert K. Elder, and he interviews 35 directors about the best film that no one's ever seen. Basically, he's saying, like, he also asked them, like, how did this influence your filmmaking style, inspire you, make you want to be a director? But then in addition to that, it's like, what do you think is the ultimate hidden gem underseen classic? And so as I'm going through this book, I'm going to be recording a podcast episode with guests. I've decided to do 2 features this time per episode instead of 1. So Frank's movies tonight. Actually, Frank, why don't you tell us what your 2 movies are right off the bat?
They are the 2002 film 8 Women.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you should highlight director, right?
Yes.
Francois Ozon. Francois Ozon.
Ozon.
And the 2015 movie Happy Hour by Ryosuke Hamaguchi.
Both foreign films. One
Yes.
French, one Japanese.
Yes, very true.
Yeah. I don't know if you meant to do that necessarily, or just worked out that way.
Yeah. When you asked me to do it, made the whole long list of, just went through my favorites of like anything that I thought could count. And those 2 just like jumped out and happened to be next to each other on that list. And then pretty fast, a lot of weird connections started like intertwining between them on like, while also being perfect contrast of each other too. So I just thought, and you expressed interest in seeing both of them previously. There are 2 movies we've talked about before you watching. So,
and I hadn't seen either of them either, which is also always nice.
Seems to be the point of the show, right?
Yeah, I want to watch movies that I haven't seen, but I want everyone else to too.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And I will say, usually when I have a new idea for something, I run it past Frank. And one of the ways that we established this criteria was, what'd you say, Frank, that it's got to be like a hidden gem, like the definition of what a hidden gem is under 50,000 logs, right?
That was like a good ballpark, but then there were some above that, like, it's a smell test too. It's just like Insomnia, like your midnight movie thing. Like, yeah, we can start to put definitions, but then there'll always be something that breaks it immediately. So like, We said though, for like a general rule, like yeah, less than 50,000 people logged on Letterboxd or whatever. Like that's a pretty underseen thing. Like that's a pretty small quantity. There's, especially these days, there's a lot of users. Like it's only growing. So
Right. I would say like
there's tons
there's
of movies well over a million. Like more than you'd assume. So I think 50K is like at least a good place to start.
I think that's a better place to start too than like I don't necessarily want like things that are under 500 views. Like it doesn't
Sure.
need to be like so obscure because then we get into more midnight movie territory.
Would you
I want it to
accept any of
be
those, or do you have your own like kind of smell test you're gonna do?
I think I've got my own small test because there were a couple that you had suggested and I was like, no, Frank, that's too popular. Like there are some that I feel like I'll have a gut feeling of like, this is not a hidden gem. This is too many people would know about this.
We've brought up too, though, that in that conversation, how there's like your own circle of influence and consumption can like skew the general view of things. Cause there's on both ends, there's been movies I'm like, everybody must know what this is. And not a single person you talk to has any idea what you're talking about. And vice versa. Stuff you assume nobody's seen and everybody loves. So it's just like, I don't know, you can have a warped perception, I guess, just based off of whatever.
Yeah. I think this what I mean by this for us, for my purposes is if you like told somebody at work or somebody who's not a cinephile, let's say, and you were like, hey, I love this movie, you should watch it. And they were like, I've never heard of it. Okay. Like I mean, I know you're going to have devil's advocate all over this right now. I can see the wheels turning in your head, but I'm just saying.
No.
Generally speaking,
the only thing that was turning in my head was like, well, I probably wouldn't recommend either of these movies to just the average person at the water cooler.
We're recommending them to people who love movies.
Yeah.
But they're not so. They've got to be in that sweet spot between obscurity and popularity. It can't be too far to obscurity or too far to popularity. Let's just say that. It's just trying to find that middle ground and then hopefully finding things that even our cinephile friends haven't heard of, which is always a challenge because a lot of my friends have seen way more movies than I have.
I think these two are weirdly good bar setters too, just because like they are both on the cusp of like a knowability because of their filmmakers. Like Ozan and Hamaguchi have like reputations. Hamaguchi even more so now, but like these two films still kind of feel like they could at any moment suddenly become popular actually, but they're not still. So this is, I think if you're, these are good. These are good bar setters, I think.
That's another thing that another experience I had semi recently that gave me this sort of desire to do this too was the Altman movie with Sandy Dennis, The Cold Day.
Oh yeah.
The Cold Day in the Park.
Yeah.
Cold Afternoon in the Park. I think it's Cold Day.
I'll try to look it up.
Yarb is going to kill me. Sorry, Yarb. I know it's either day or afternoon, but that movie was like, oh, like nobody has heard of this probably, or a select few, and then, but it's Altman. Another great example is Somebody's Watching Me, the Carpenter film, where it's like, of course, you know who John Carpenter is, but you haven't probably heard of
unless you're going deep in those two's filmography specifically. Yeah.
Right. And so that's kind of a thing too, is like we could potentially take famous directors, like both of yours are well known within certain circles, and then say, well, what's their most, what's a movie that they did that a lot of people haven't seen? Because Hamaguchi did Drive My Car, and obviously that was nominated for Best Picture.
Right.
It was all over the place.
Really broke him through to the main stage.
Right. But he's still not where I could ask the average person, have you seen Drive My Car? So, I mean, it's still It's still somewhat
niche or whatever.
Yeah. Or only among movie lovers.
It's called That Cold Day in the Park.
That Cold Day in the Park. Thank you. Extremely strange movie. I couldn't rate it. It affected me so profoundly.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
I
it
gotta
was.
see more Altman, so.
And Victor had such a great review of it. I'm going to get way off topic, so we're going to hone it in. But yes,
I'm willing to go wherever you want to go.
I know.
Come on.
10 minutes of an explanation. So the only last thing I will say about this is this book I'm reading, The Best Film You've Never Seen. Each time that I have a new episode, I'm going to mention the chapter that I'm on. And I'll tell you the director, I'll tell you the movie, and tell you if I liked it.
Nice.
So we're going to dive right in. We're going to do 8 Women first, and then Happy Hour second with Frank. Frank, my first question to you. How would you describe 8 Women to someone who's never seen it before?
How would you describe 8 Women? I'd say it's a movie about 8 women. And then I'd pause for a laugh.
Expected that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you got a plan for that. No, you'd say 8 Women. It's a murder mystery musical, French murder mystery musical set in the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
Very bright, campy, and it's all about definitely circus, yeah. And all about women slowly expressing their emotions. And that's how I would tell people to watch it. I think I've said that something to that effect to many people before, because
and there's a murder and there's a kind of a whodunit, almost like an Agatha Christie, Gosford Park,
It definitely like presents that kind of vibe. I mean, the story, right? It's that the patriarch of the family is murdered, and around Christmas or at Christmas, it's around Christmas time, and there's literally 8 women involved in this house, and it's them realizing one of them had to have done it. So it has this murder mystery setup, but then there's that, and it plays with those tropes. Like a lot of the movie is people kind of being like, you had a motive, and here's your secret past, and new information, and like everything is over the top.
Where were you at 12:02 a.m.?
Totally. But like, I also would try to quickly emphasize, like, it's not about that almost at all. And I think it makes that kind of apparent enough, because it's got this like real weird, what's the word? Like, it's got a weird energy to it where like everything kind of is like thrown off, and they're just like, okay, next thing. Like like everything is a super dramatic moment, but then you're just on to the next one. And it like it almost is barely phasing people in a weird way. So it's like, you're not here to solve a mystery. You're here to watch these people. And I think that kind of, I don't know. Maybe. And
it's got like icons in it. Like big French actresses, Deneuve and Isabel, the piano teacher.
Isabel, same year. Hubert.
We're not going to do French.
Well, I might.
Well, I mean, you just tried.
I think it's the same year as the piano teacher too, which is just fucking bonkers.
That's crazy.
I think she's my favorite performance.
She's my favorite character.
She's so funny.
She's so funny.
She gets to, I mean, okay, I realized today I haven't seen that many movies of hers. I just kind of assumed I had somehow. It's very few. It's like under 5, maybe 5. Yeah, I don't want to go look, because we'll pretend it's more than it is. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
But like, this is the antithesis of what her reputation is. Like, it's a total comedic, like anxiety driven, over the top, nonstop chatty, I don't even know, gossipy. What's the word? Spinster? Isn't that the trope? The spinster trope?
And the costumes, everything. You can tell that the director just was like going for a specific vibe that's kind of old Hollywood. So having those actresses in it really kind of emphasizes that too.
I read somewhere that he wanted to remake The Women, the George Cukor movie from the 30s. I went way too French with his American ass name. Anyway.
Yeah.
But he couldn't get the rights. So then he just found this play which this is based on a play, and then was like,
Right.
okay, we'll do that then. So he's like intentionally for sure trying to go with that old melodramatic, like borderline screwball comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, it's the Sirkian melodrama. There's a little bit of the Hitchcock suspense randomly through. There's a lot of moments that feel like Rebecca specifically.
Yes.
And also obviously
Kind of dial in for murder too, and
totally
rope. Well, it feels kind of stagey,
right, because it primarily takes place in the main room of this like lavish mansion,
right?
and
Right.
but then it also definitely has that Jacques Demy and Pedro Almodovar feel too.
Yes, that's what I wrote.
Oh yeah, maybe
Pedro.
you put the idea in my head, probably.
Yeah, no, definitely. But Pedro is a huge Cirque person, so this is all it's all
right. So. Yeah. If none of those things mean anything to you, if they do mean anything to you, you're definitely going to like this movie.
You will like it.
Like, yeah, if any of those are happy words to you, any of those people. But if they're not, like, I don't know. Okay, here's what I'll say. I thought it's really lovely and fun the first time I watched it. And I was just like overwhelmed with how amazing of a time I was having watching this absurd movie that also like emotionally affected me a lot. And then I convinced a friend to watch it, and he was like, this is very depressing. Like, he liked it, but he's like, this is dark and depressing. Why are you having such a good time? And I was like, interesting. So I don't
Frank
know
loves a miserable time, but we'll pass that point. But yes, it is a dark comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's put it there.
I just don't want to mischaracterize it. That's all.
It's ultimately light, though, Frank. I do think it's lighthearted enough to where I wouldn't say
right.
Happy Hour is much darker comparatively.
Yes, on its face, absolutely. I mean, this has moments of darkness.
Yes.
But overall, it feels like a campy fun time, like for sure. And I feel like I'm gonna want to. Even though I literally haven't, because my watch cycle of it's been weird, but I feel like it'd be great to watch around Christmas, and it would feel like a great Christmas movie.
Especially with the singing.
Right. All the songs are amazing too, which I didn't know that they originally didn't know that they weren't written for the movie. They're all repurposed pop French songs or whatever from all over. I started looking at them earlier, and I confirmed they are all that. Not a single one was written and for the film. But then they're integrated really well, and it's got that nice each woman gets a song, right, to truly express themselves with a full on musical moment, and the movie will just take a musical aside where everybody kind of slips into it, and then it just goes back to being the movie it was. Yeah, it's got a real zany energy, even though it's also kind of low key. I don't know how to describe this movie.
It's also kind of melancholy too, because a lot of the songs are pretty sad and kind of longing. But
it's all these women now because it's the 50s France, so there's a lot of immediate implications right there, right? With now they're going to be in a new situation now that the patriarch of this family is out of the picture. So it's a lot of people. Even though it's this zany musical dark comedy, the very real elements of it, it's like, these people figuring out that their lives are going to be different now. And like, how are they going to be different? And the reckoning of that in whichever way it goes.
Right.
So there's some melancholic, dramatic, serious stuff here.
Yeah, and it actually becomes quite meaningful. I cried at the end.
I cried. I
was very
again.
Surprised. It really hit me.
I was surprised I cried a second time, to be honest. It
doesn't surprise me. Frank, you just want reasons to cry. Let's be honest.
We all do.
Yeah. That's why Frank watches the movies. Okay, so my next question is, why hasn't this gotten more attention? Like, why is this underseen if it's got all these big stars in it? And, but I mean, not a lot of people have heard of it or seen or logged it. I mean, at all.
Okay, real fast to finish that, the other two big stars, Emmanuel Berat and Danielle Dario, from
Your guess is
Earrings of Madame de. And
we need
the
someone who
young
has an
girls
accent on this show.
of Rochefort.
Yes. Or who can do an accent. Yeah, rather. Yeah.
We brought it up earlier and then went off on the Hooper tangent.
Yeah.
Classic.
Hooper.
I don't
Hooper.
know. This one, I can easily answer that for happy hour. This one feels a little more strange to me that it's not more popular. I bet, well, in the circles of all the people that we named, like, I'm sure anybody who watches this has to like it to some degree, right? And it's definitely got a good reputation. Yeah, I don't know. I guess
maybe it's the genre.
We brought up before starting the like possibility of not mentioning it's a musical, because when I first watched it, that blew me away, and I was like, hell yeah, I had no idea anybody was about to start singing in this movie. Like, this is awesome. But I can also see that being a deterrent where
for people who are grumpy cats against musicals and just generally recalcitrant, right?
Yeah. And it's like a fair, you know, like I get it. If it's never your thing, then like it's not going to just suddenly be your thing. This one, yeah, it still wouldn't actually. It feels more adhering to a standard musical idea, even if it subverts that in interesting ways.
But I will say that this is very different than like a musical, like
that's true. Yeah, no.
Umbrellas of Cherbourg, or like where they're literally singing the entire time and there's no talking. This is very, very different. This is like pop songs that are interspersed. This isn't like people breaking out into song.
That's true.
In a Broadway musical sense at all.
It definitely feels
kind of like
more
Rent in that way, where there's just like songs, but I don't know. They're not like singing actions. They're singing songs.
Right. It's a full-on song. That's true. Yeah. So I don't know. This one feels stranger. It's just got to be a visibility thing, right? Like, I didn't know who Ozan was until I was on Letterboxd. You know, I'd never heard of him before. His movies don't get a lot of play here in the States, at least nowadays. Like, I'm sure they play at the art house theaters for the week or whatever, but they never are breaching far and wide. And he seems to not have any. He's not like an Almodovar that had a big critical splash ever. He seems to make more intentionally provocative movies from what I've been able to pick up on. I've seen 3 now. This is the only one I love. I did not like the other 2 I watched, to be honest.
I couldn't stand there's only one more that I've seen of his called Double Lover, and I hated that movie.
I thought that one was okay, at least.
Oh,
that was
gosh.
Okay. I saw
it was
France.
So absurd.
France was a terrible movie.
That just came out a couple years ago, right?
No, a couple years ago.
Sudol?
No.
France?
No. Frantz. France.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about there was like a movie called France with, okay.
Anyway,
France.
I think that's a big part. He doesn't have like easily marketable material. He seems like, I mean, Pedro's weird that he broke through, but there have been enough that can kind of play like an Oscar-y film, even if they have like subversive, perversive elements. Like, I don't know, his films, Ozone doesn't seem to fall into that really. So I don't know. It's strange that 8 Women doesn't have a bigger following specifically. Like, it's such a movie nerd's movie.
I was gonna say too, D'Angelo, I have to say, because I looked at, he's almost seen all of his movies from what I could tell. Like, every time I clicked on one, I saw Mike's rating, and this is the only one that he really loved from what I can tell. Like, everything else was like 2 stars.
He's definitely how I found out about this movie. Like, early on in following D'Angelo and discovering him, like that, you know, any high rated one stands out on a tough critic.
Yes,
so it caught my eye. Yeah.
Yep.
And
I know.
Blew me away. Yeah, no, you're not wrong. I just looked on his thing. This is easily the only one with a good rating.
It is. Yeah, it is.
So I wouldn't be surprised if I felt the same way. I still want to watch more, obviously. I love this movie so much. I don't care if he only makes shit. Like, actually, this movie's so special. Like,
wow.
I the only other movie we haven't mentioned is the weird like 8.5 of it all. Like
Yes.
that really struck me the first time I watched it, where it feels like a director making 8.5, but like if you removed the director character from it, if it was just about the women of those movies. And so it feels like it's a really weird subversive movie. I don't know.
Check it out.
Yeah.
Watch it. 8 Women. I had to buy it on DVD, so I don't really know how anybody's going to check it out.
There's ways to find it. I'll say that.
It's right here.
Oh, that's awesome.
I know. I bought it on DVD, ordered it, and then...
yeah, I probably should do that. Well, there's your answer right there of why it's not more popular, right? Like
it's only on DVD.
It's only on DVD. There's nowhere to
if you're legal about it.
If you're legal about it, it's not streaming.
And conscientious.
I have found a couple where you can just stream it like on the internet, but none of them have English subtitles. So that's another thing too.
Forget it.
It took
Get the DVD. It wasn't that expensive.
How much was it?
You could find. It was like $15 maybe.
I should probably buy one, huh?
Gosh, I own it and Frank doesn't. What's going on?
I don't buy a lot of things.
Frank, next film.
That's it? That's all we're saying about 8 Women?
That's all we're saying about 8 Women. See it, please. I don't want to spoil any more of it because...
No, I probably said too much, huh?
We already said too much, and it's very good, and
every performance rules, every costume decision rules, every camera move rules. So awesome. It's so fun.
Good.
You had fun?
So fun.
You had fun?
I had fun, and then I cried.
And then I cried. Yeah, same. Okay.
I laughed. I cried. It moved me.
All right.
Okay, so Happy Hour 2015. Hamaguchi, director of Drive My Car. He also did a little movie called The Wheel of Fortune and Fantasy, which is my favorite. Still. I know.
No.
He's going to be upset about that.
No, it's okay. That's my second fave.
Okay. Drive My Car is my least fave.
Actually, that is my least fave, but I like it way more than you.
Yes, you do, but I don't.
I think it's close to a masterpiece, and then I think Happy Hour and Wheel are both actual masterpieces. Like
that's how I feel, and they're very, very close. Wheel and Happy Hour are very close.
I was hoping you liked it more.
I know. Wheel of Fortune and Fantasy was just so I don't know. The way that it unfolds just really captivated me. Not that this didn't, but it was just different. I don't know. It's hard to explain.
When I picked these two, I did consider for a minute doing Happy Hour and Wheel to make those pair together, but I thought
that would have been overwhelming.
Yeah, probably.
That would. So let's preface this by saying, so the Happy Hour is 5 hours and 17 minutes. It's on Criterion's channel.
Sure is a 5-hour movie. So let's jump to your second question. This is why more people haven't seen this movie. It is a 5-hour movie.
It is a 5-hour movie. And most people, like even Lau today, I was telling him that I watched it to talk with you tonight. And he was like, yeah, it's just very daunting.
It is daunting.
But I think if you approach it sort of, I hate to say this because I think you're going to get mad at me, but like as a TV series in 1 hour increments and or like chunks, then you can, because people binge watch stuff, Frank. Like people will binge watch something for 6 hours, but they don't want to watch a 2-hour film.
It doesn't make sense to me.
It's a very strange phenomena. But so if you change your thinking about this and don't think of it as like a 5-hour movie, even though it is, I think you can trick your brain
definitely
into
distinct like sections to it. There's definitely moments that feel like you could take a break. Like we took a break. Me on my rewatch, I watched it with a friend and we took a break. It wasn't a long one because we wanted to just get back to it, but like we took a break. Maybe we even took 2 short breaks. Like, you know, like I'm not against it holistically, but it definitely feels better in one long go. I will say.
But Frank is a one long go kind of person. We have had debates about this and like the Decalogue, which I'm not even going to get into with you right now. But he wanted a marathon that, and I was like, I would rather you never see it.
I still might.
No, don't ever talk to me again if you marathon. Anybody who's listening to the sound of my voice, if you know what the Decalogue is, it is meant to be digested slowly over time. Christopher would back me up on this. My friend Andrew. Okay, this is not a marathon.
All right.
Happy Hour though, maybe.
Happy Hour,
maybe, but I didn't do it in one sitting. I did,
and that didn't make me mad. It didn't. It actually didn't. It didn't make me mad.
Thanks.
I totally get it. It's a daunting task. A 5-hour movie for sure. Like it's not
Right.
normal. We're not attuned to it. It is the
Mm-hmm.
difference of a TV show, why people can binge into it, even though it doesn't make sense, is that each episode you're getting something new theoretically. Like
Right.
in an episode, because TV has to be structured the way it is, like you're going to get a full satisfying story in the
Mm-hmm.
containment of an episode while also the grander thing, right? Happy Hour,
So there's some sense of closure.
right? A film you have to usually wait till the end to feel that experience, and
right.
as we get more TikTok, we're going to get further away from
Instant
it.
gratification.
I know,
Frank,
but that's not what we're here to
what
talk
we're
about.
Okay, so anyways, so one deterrent of happy hour is that it is its length, and I would say that's a big one because that's the reason why I procrastinated on it as well, because
Me
I
too.
couldn't, you know, and
it was one of the first movies that stood out to me when I got Letterboxd back in the day. Like it was on somebody's favorite list. I was like, "What is this?" And I was like, 5 hours. What the fuck are we even talking about?
right,
And,
like I can't sit there for that long,
right? But so I procrastinated for at least like 6 years before watching it. Like I knew of its existence, but then once drive my car, wheel, we're getting buzz. I said, okay, like let's check this out finally. And so this was my first that I saw. And honestly, I would recommend that because I think it instructed how I watched Drive My Car for sure. Like knowing like this movie's a lot more. I mean, it's such a subtle movie. Whatever. We're all over the place. I know. I'm sorry.
I was about to tell you. Okay, so how would you describe the movie to someone who hasn't seen it? Besides that, it's 5 hours.
Besides that's 5 hours. Always start there. I go, it is 5 hours, and it is just about 4 women living their lives. 4 women in their 30s, late 30s, living their lives. Like quite literally, that is it at the end of the day. So what you immediately are assuming is going to be correct to some degree, that it's like it presents itself as like hyper realistic. It's all about dialogue. It's about the dynamics between our characters, because it's not the 4 women of a friend group are our main characters, but we get involved in all of their lives, in their family lives, their work lives. Like we get to fully know them. In that way, it does feel almost more like a TV show than a movie, because like we often in the film space don't get to just spend this much time with characters actually, and all of them, which is why I think the 5 hours isn't like reductive or some bullshit art movie thing. Like I'll be the first to say, I think Satan Tango is too long to be a great movie. It's if I could say you could cut 2 hours and I'm going to get the point, I don't know. And I'm sure people would say the same thing about Happy Hour, but I would disagree. Me and my friend were talking after. I was like, I actually couldn't tell you a single scene I think that should be cut. I feel like you cut anything, you're going to lose actually something built into the story. So that's the other thing I would try to get to quickly when selling this movie, is despite the 5 hours, despite it being about people's emotions and like being real life, trying to whatever, it's so highly constructed. It is such a fucking movie. Like there's way more thought through cinematography than you would ever expect. There's so much editing in this movie. Like it's constantly cutting around these conversations. Like sure, and
you've got the Ozu thing too,
right,
with the looking straight at the camera as well. I have to remember to say that because I thought of that multiple times, and he does it at the right times.
It always packs a punch. The first time, it just catches you so off guard because you're not expecting it, because it gets so weirdly cinematic sometimes, because it's never not pretending it isn't a movie. So it's like also very schematically structured inside of these contexts of naturalism, and like these things should be like counterproductive or not make sense together, and literally watching it feels like a magic trick, and I feel nothing but excited as a film lover, because I'm like, this doesn't make sense, this shouldn't work. Like you're so clearly making a movie, and yet I'm wholesale believing like, yeah, you just found like 4 women, right, and just started following them around. Like that's what happened, right?
But then the thing that struck me the most, and I don't know if you agree, I think you probably do, is that the bluntness and frankness which the characters speak about like very personal matters
Mm.
is jarring.
It's very
and
jarring.
and you don't even really I feel like Americans are not, I don't know if this is accurate at all, or if it's sort of like a fantasy of how they wish, how he wishes the culture would interact on a sort of small talk level.
Right.
But Americans are not near this, unless you're Larry David on Curb Your Enthusiasm. You're not going to just like go to a dinner party and confess
Your
to
deepest, darkest
having an
secrets.
affair. Yeah.
Well,
So
they do drink a lot, so there is that. They
that's
are in
true.
all those scenes. Usually, people are drinking, so there is something to that.
But there is a lot of like just total honesty.
Yeah, you're right.
Like, I mean, we have to talk about this, and I'll go ahead since I just brought it up. But there's a scene where the movie really kicks off, where it's a dinner party, and two characters just sort of confess big things to a group of, some of them are strangers and some of them are people that they've known a long time, and the people that they've known a long time didn't even know, and they just say it sort of matter of factly, and it made me think like, and I wrote this and sent it to Frank. I didn't publish it, but I was thinking about how we don't really have spaces like that in our culture to confess things, unless it's like in a therapist's office, or you're anonymous, or you are saying it in a way that still makes you appear attractive to other people.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's really needed to move on and to heal. You have to be able to say what the full truth is of something,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't have a lot of places for that. And then a lot of times when people express it, they're shunned or disliked for being oversharing or being too honest.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very interesting in that regard.
I 100% agree. I mean, and that's in that, like, it's highlighted in that scene because it's what like really kicks the movie off. That like really seems to be the concern of the whole movie, right? Like it from beginning to end, it is just about like, we need to communicate with each other. Like that is the conundrum of every person's singular existence and their cohabited existences. Even the four friends start realizing like, we've been friends for 10 years, 25 years. And like, what are the things we haven't still say to each other? Like, you're the person I've known the longest, and we've never talked about that. Like, that's fascinating. Like so that's probably is common in across both cultures. I'd assume is that this is a movie that wants those things. I bet these things don't happen more often there than they do here. In that way, it reminds me a lot of Cassavetes in a really weird way. Like the energy is super subdued. It's all matter of fact, like you said. Like people get emotional, of course. Like I'm not. We're talking human beings.
It's very frank. It's very direct.
Where Cassavetes is the wild expression because I don't even know what I'm
out of
feeling.
Control.
Yeah. But they're both hyper fixate because Hamaguchi's other movies are about these very things too. It's like these weird intricacies of how we do and don't communicate, and the need to like express ourselves and feel things. And then he gets real wrapped up in the art of it all. In Drive My Car, he makes it literal. Happy Hour, like 4 hours in, maybe they're dissecting the movie you're watching, but we're not going to worry about that.
Well, and also, Frank, it also highlights the need for touch as well. I mean, to me, the whole movie is really about intimacy, the desire to be close to others, how healing it is, like just to be held, and just to like lean your forehead against someone else's forehead and just stand there. There's a lot of really profound, quiet moments that make you feel your own longing for it that you don't even really acknowledge most of the time. But I think it's universal.
It has to
be. Because otherwise, I mean, there were lines in this movie, like I told Frank, where I've actually said them, and like this is like a world away. Like this is a completely foreign culture to me.
A society that's somehow even like, more strict than ours, whatever, in regards to women.
But I can feel exactly what they're feeling. And so there's just an incredible depth to this film, I'm selling it for you.
Yeah.
But it's really moving, and it's really powerful.
Moving. I think it's really like it finds new ways to explore these very real feelings for sure. And I mean, you want to talk a world away? I'm a world away, and I feel like for those 5 hours, I was totally just absorbed in these ladies' feelings. And like, okay, I did admit this. On a rewatch, I definitely like I felt even more because the first watch I was definitely clouded by like the filmmaker brain going insane, going, this is the best thing I've ever seen. What's going on? I can't believe you can just do this. What's happening
Which is what Frank loves, right? That's like one of your favorite feelings.
That's candy.
You love when you're like, this is the movie I would make, you know, this really resonates with your director brain. Well, but then at the same time, it's the emotional part.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was obviously there. But the second time, once that side cooled off, I was, it's fully hit. I think it's really empathetic, and that's where the 5 hours comes in, because it's not superfluous. Every scene has a purpose, and we're always moving forward. It's like, okay, another thing we should say is that scenes are long. Like, it's not long takes. Well, there's some of those, but like, that's not it's not like slow cinema, but there are long scenes that we are not accustomed to. And that is what really draws my attention, because something that always feels weird to me in movies is building up an event and then not just seeing the event. Like, it always weirds me out. Like, if all we're building up to is we're finally going to put on the show, and then like you watch a 5-minute montage, it's like, what are we doing? It always weirds me out. I don't like it. That's why I'm obsessed with Davies. You know, he lets the song play out in full. Like, even that simple concept, like, don't give me a minute and a half if you're going to put the song in. Just do the song. We're already here. Happy Hour is a movie that believes in that principle to the nth degree. Like, characters are going to go to a seminar to like whatever, do some group activity, and
centering, finding your center.
You're going to watch the whole seminar. Like, it maybe skips,
as if you're there.
It maybe skips the moments of people having to literally like stand up and shuffle around. But actually, no, it doesn't. Never mind.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah. You just watch the whole seminar. And I think that's exciting. That is getting closer to reality. Like, you're letting it play out in that real time, and instead of forcing more dramatics, you're gonna find the dramatics in those scenarios that we find ourselves in. Because you don't just get to leave when it gets boring. You don't just get to leave when it's not when it's not going your way. Like, you have to sit there and stay in the moment. I don't know.
Right.
That's also what the movie's about.
It's the mixture of reality and fantasy. I really think that this movie is both infused with reality, where there's so much truth in it and there's so much relatability, but then at the same time, it's a fantasy in the sense that a lot of the elements we don't experience in life, and they're kind of ideal scenarios for opening up and for growing and for being embraced. I mean, for most people, those things have to be like sought out, and sometimes you can't just have them. But this movie feels like it's like this is the norm for them, you know? And so,
but it's also not. That's what they're highlighting. It's the norm in the context of the movie. The thing that's happened, the one friend's change in life, I guess we've already alluded to it. The one friend getting a divorce is what makes all these people reevaluate their lives. And then they start being more frank. Other than our nurse character. One of them is frank from the beginning, but the other two are
more shy.
Yeah.
Or inward.
I guess it's the thing.
Withdrawn.
That's similar to 8 Women. This is how they're related, though. It's in these themes and the way that they play out. It's like ultimately about these women's liberation, like, actually is what, and for good or ill, like, that is what these things are about, is something has happened that's forcing these people to reevaluate where they are in life and do something about it. And through fantasy and reality, like both of them. 8 Women leaning way more on fantasy, Happy Hour leaning more on reality, but they both have the other two.
And it's also causing them to reevaluate their perceptions of the other women in their lives
Mhm.
as well,
Mhm.
not just like the men in their lives
Mhm.
who are like in both instances just completely clueless, dumbass.
It's kind of
It's so
hilarious. It's
painful.
painful, but it's kind of
It's painful,
hilarious. The
but it
one
really.
husband with the long hair, I could not just
Oh,
every
Frank,
single thing he did, I was
Frank,
shaking my
please.
head, just like, what are you
I
doing?
can't. I can't.
We me and my friend were having a lot of fun. We were just like, homie, come on. But
You know,
yeah,
though, it's kind of like it reminded me of Banshees of Inisherin, where it's like the cluelessness.
yeah.
That I could go on and on about this topic, but like just not being able to accept
Mm.
rejection or not being able to accept the truth when faced with it
Hmm.
is just so common, not just to men. I'm not going to just single out the entire,
No, in the movie is
but
more layered than
in the
that
movie
too,
they are.
and it's definitely the men. But like, these aren't flawless women. Like, that's the exciting thing too. Like, they're definitely
Mm,
complex characters with a lot of different layers, and like, one minute they might
right.
do the perfect thing, and the next minute they might make a mistake. But like, yeah, for the most part, these men are fucking clueless and doing the worst decisions.
And the women are being so clear. So that's something
No,
that
you're
it's
right, and
like
it is that I'll
it.
say it. It's definitely more common in men. You don't have to. I'll go ahead and say it.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Because it's
So
just the truth.
if you want to sort of, I would say you should start with Happy
I
Hour,
really think
and then you
so.
should finish with Eight Women, even though we just did the reverse in
Oh,
the order of this
I thought
episode.
you were talking about Hamaguchi in general.
Oh, no,
I
no, no.
really think it's a good
I'm
place to start,
Oh,
though.
well, yeah, you can start with that for his filmography as well. But I'm just saying, if you wanted to double feature this, just like Frank and I did this week, I would start with Happy Hour first, just so that you could end on the note of Eight Women, as opposed
Yes.
to ending on the note of
Happy Hour definitely has a fascinating note that it ends on, but we
Mm,
obviously can't talk about it. But we will off mic
no.
because I want to.
Okay,
I mean,
we'll do
off
it soon.
recording.
Off camera.
Yeah.
Off camera.
Did we forget?
Okay, well, Frank,
Did we forget anything?
do you have any further thoughts? Because otherwise I'm gonna mention this first film in my book, and then I'm gonna say good
I
night.
just
Unless you got any more
really
thoughts.
love Happy Hour. And I love that you never feel lost in it. Like, he's
Mm,
so clearly guiding us along, trains you how to
mm.
watch, trains you how to, like, how it's
Listen.
going to go, how to listen, which is if you've seen Drive My Car, you actually already understand what we're talking about. They're very
Right.
similar movies, truly, at the end of the day. And I just
Right.
prefer the, like, vibe and execution of Happy Hour a lot more to that one, actually, at the end of the day.
I agree.
I also think it went by, like, it obviously felt, it wasn't short, for sure. It's literally 5 hours, but like, started it in the afternoon and it was over before I knew it. Like, it wasn't even dark out yet. You know, you can fit this movie in and it won't even be dark out if you start it at a reasonable time. So
I was going to review when I originally started writing about this. I was like, you have time. Everybody has time. It's just a matter of energy, and it's a matter of breaking up in whatever way you need to.
it's not boring.
I think it's possible.
It's not a boring
no, it's
movie.
not boring.
It's just like, right. If I mean, you have to enjoy dialogue driven films, obviously. If you don't, then like, this one ain't for you. Try Eight Women. They talk a lot in that movie too.
But they're singing.
But they also sing. Yeah, I don't know. It's like lovely as much as it is like depressing, as much as it is hopeful, as much as it is fascinating. Such a special movie. Come on, just watch it. Just watch
it for Frank.
Watch it for yourself. Come on.
Yeah, but also for Frank, because
me.
he'll love you forever.
It will be
okay.
Awesome to see. Also watch Wheel of Fortune and Fantasy and Drive My Car. They're movies worth thinking about. I'm very excited to watch all his movies forever. I still have some to watch. Asako 1 and 2 I still haven't watched. So.
I haven't either. That's the only one I've got left. That's big.
Right.
He also on Criterion.
Yeah,
Channel.
he has a bunch that are not easy to find that sound amazing and insane. He studied under Kiyoshi Kurosawa, who is also one of the best fucking directors.
That's Cure, right?
Yeah. Like, that was his film teacher. And he wrote one of his movies
Awesome.
recently, but like it weirdly makes sense too. Like they both have that like it's a movie. Like let's get you through a movie. It's the most
Mm.
antithetical 5 hour thing you'll watch. Just watch it. Just watch. Okay, I'm done. I'm done.
Okay, so for the best film you've never seen, the first film that I watched for this, which was a couple of weeks ago, was After Dark, My Sweet. The director that recommends it is this guy named Austin Clark. I've never heard of him or seen any of his movies, but Elder interviews him, and that's his recommendation. So each week, I'll just mention what chapter I'm reading. I'm not going to tell you anything about it. Just look it up, because After Dark, My Sweet it's a neo noir with Jason Patric and Bruce Dern that is on Ebert's Great Movies list. It's fantastic. I loved it.
Nice.
And it's got a really, really, really good script. So, Frank,
Yeah.
it's been a pleasure.
You feel good,
my friend? I feel good. I think this is the right direction, and I hope that everybody enjoys it.
What did we talk about?
8 Women in Happy Hour.
Right. Okay.
See you at the movies.
Goodbye.